What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Major Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Hope you're doing well whenever and wherever you're watching this. Joining the show today, pop singer-songwriter Audriix, just as she's getting ready to hit the road. She hits the road on Madison Beer's Life Support Tour, October 18th. The tour kicks off in Toronto. Audriix, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Just getting very excited to get back on the road.
Now, I do have to ask, because by the time you hit the stage at the Phoenix in Toronto, I did the rough math here. It will have been 586 days since you have done a live in-person show. First of all, how stoked are you for this tour to come up?
Oh, I mean, I can't even wait, especially after a whole year and a half off. I hadn't done the exact math, but yeah, it's kind of crazy because I played my last show March 11th, 2020. It was literally the next day that everything got canceled. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more excited to finally be back to performing.
And the nice thing is you've got new music out. Your new single, I Choose Me, just came out on YouTube recently. So as far as this last year and a half goes, how has that been for you? Not having shows, has it allowed you to be able to focus more on songwriting and getting new songs out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been obviously a very difficult year for so many reasons, and I'm sure for everyone in the world, crazy times. But yeah, I mean, 2020 was supposed to be a big touring year for me. Obviously that didn't happen. So yeah, I mean, really kind of all you could do as a musician was write. So I did a lot of writing on Zoom sessions, which were not a thing before. Now they are. There are a lot of things I actually like about Zoom sessions, I will say as well. But yeah, definitely a big focus on getting new music out, because prior to, I think I had the previous release before these singles and COVID was my album Status Change. So big focus on writing. Yeah.
So now as you're preparing for this tour, new songs, even probably pulling out some of the old ones, how have you been preparing to kind of get back out there?
Yeah, I have been very focused. There's a lot to do to get ready for a tour. So honestly, I've been rehearsing for the past several months because honestly, I'm so excited. I'm practicing like every day because as soon as we booked the tour, I was ready to go, like find my choreographer, get ready, just because I love live performing so much. So obviously the biggest focus being working with my choreographer, practicing, rehearsing, practicing the voice, all that stuff. But besides that, there's a lot that goes into getting ready for a tour besides the show. And there's still, I've got 3 weeks and I still feel like there's so much to do, but it's even just, styling, like working with my stylist to get all the costumes. And we have, different costume for each city. So that's a lot. And the new music, I had 3 songs, Taking Back My Life, I Choose Me, and another one that's not out yet that we had sort of I'd written a few months ago that we decided we wanted to release back to back in the lead up to the tour. So that's been also a big thing, kind of while prepping for the tour, is also prepping for those song releases. Again, one more coming, so still more to come on that. And just other, random logistical things and figuring out the routes and how we're getting from city to city and merch designs and, how many suitcases do I need to order new suitcases, just random things like that. And there's still a lot to do. I felt like I was very ahead, but now I feel like there's so much to do. But the good news is I feel very performance ready on the actual show, which is the most important part.
When you get back on stage, though, it's going to be a bit of a different vibe from, March 11th, 2020, because then it was like there was a concern, but it wasn't really here. And then all of a sudden, Rudy Gobert started touching microphones and everyone got told to stay home. So when you step out on that stage, not just during sound check, but when it's showtime, how much are there going to be nerves of kind of getting back out there and, just the general post-COVID vibe? And how much of it is going to be catharsis to get back out there?
Yeah, the good news is I don't really get nervous performing. I think I've been performing since I was 3 years old. So I always say I've just never learned that you were supposed to get nervous. So I think it'll mostly just be really a ton of excitement. Probably the biggest kind of nerves I'll have is making sure that I don't catch COVID. I'm vaccinated, but still there are breakthrough cases. So I think that will probably be the biggest nervous piece of the whole tour, is just I already pre-COVID was like paranoid, like when I've toured before, paranoid to not get sick. Let's just multiply that by 100 now. So I mean, I will just be kind of constantly really watching what I'm touching, washing hands, not eating inside restaurants, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it'll be very cathartic to finally I'll probably burst into tears on the first night. Who knows? Like, I'm just so excited to get back out.
We're going to get into just how much you do behind the scenes a little bit later in the interview. But for someone who is as hands-on with her career as you are, to all of a sudden, have the emergency brake pulled with COVID, how much of a shock to the system was that for you, for someone who does keep such a busy schedule?
I mean, it was very weird. I travel a ton, and that just went to zero. And actually, it's so funny because I'd say like 2 weeks before the shutdown, I remember I was traveling so much at the beginning of 2020. I was LA, Bay Area, Tahoe. Then I went to visit my best friend in Utah. Then I went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans just for fun. Then I was in LA. Then I was like back in Tahoe. Then I was in San Diego where I played my last show. And I remember during this period talking to my parents and being like, oh my God, can I just get like 2 weeks at home? And then, I got a year. So yeah, I mean, it was a big shock. It was weird because I never am in one place more than, 2 weeks at a time, and to go from all of that. And I like that. I really like to keep busy. I'm not someone that likes to take days off. I don't take weekends off ever. I probably should sometime, but I don't like weekends actually, because I'm like, there's so much to do and people on my team aren't working the whole time. And I'm like, no, can Monday just come already so we can get back to doing stuff. So, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was really, really crazy. And I also, I was very, very paranoid. I have some health issues. So I was ultra paranoid to not catch COVID. And as a singer, I was not about to risk getting it and, ruining my lungs or anything like that. So, I was full on like not going anywhere, no restaurants, no nothing for the whole year until I got the vaccine. So it was a very crazy change.
Let's talk about just how busy you kind of keep, because not only are you a performer, not only are you a songwriter, but for the most part, you also direct your own music videos. You actually edit your own music videos. You do a lot of your own graphic design. You have an MBA from Stanford. You have a master's and bachelor's in computer science. Like, literally, I got exhausted just doing my research with how busy you keep behind the scenes. What was it? What is it that drives all of that, self-propelled, self-motivation?
Two things. One is passion for music. Since I was 3 years old and I started violin, music has been my biggest passion in my life. Music and performing. I mean, it's just like, I love it. Like Friday night, if I don't have anything to do, I'm singing for fun. Like, I just love it. A huge part is just loving writing, loving performing, loving everything to do with music and performing. But second as well is I'm a storyteller, and I've gone through a lot of crazy situations and difficult times like everybody else. And part of the way that I deal with it and heal is through songwriting. And so a big piece is I want to share those stories with other people, and other people who may be going through the same thing. My hope is that they can hear my music and feel a connection to it, and maybe have it help them as well. So there's a really big element of wanting to reach audiences, and especially teenage girls, and be sort of a positive role model for them, to feel like they can connect with my music.
That very much comes across in the new single, I Choose Me. There's a lot of self-empowerment in your lyrics, and it very much shows behind the scenes. So as you were mentioning, you were hoping that it kind of becomes a role model. As people are discovering your music, as people are hearing these songs, what's the takeaway that you hope they take from that? I hope they realize the takeaway that I hope is for them to choose themselves. I choose me, right? To it's an anthem. I Choose Me, as a lot of my other songs are, it's an anthem of self-empowerment and self-love and self-worth. So I want people to feel empowered to stand up for themselves and be authentic, and as I say in I Choose Me, to let themselves shine. And there are people that
will try to bring you down, that you'll come across. And I want people to just say, I'm going to let myself shine, and no matter what other people are saying or doing.
Now, because you direct and edit a lot of your own videos, there are some that, that have other people have kind of, sat in those chairs. But for someone who is as involved in the video making process as you are, do you find that when there's times when maybe there's someone else in the director's chair, or there's someone else in the edit chair? It's very similar to the Stampede video. Do you find it hard to unplug from that, from that hands-on mode?
Not if I really trust the director. So like Stampede is a great example where I, at that time, my choreographer who was helping me choreograph for my tour at that time for Ali and AJ. Her name's Tracy, and she came to me with a whole vision for the Stampede music video. And I was like, wow, love this, let's do it. And so I had already worked with her as a choreographer, and I so believed in her vision that it was actually quite nice, because I was like, great, I'm not going to worry about any of that stuff. And it was actually kind of a nice experience to be like, I don't have to be thinking about, did we get the shot? Did we get that? And I can just focus on the performance. So yeah, no, I think I have been, most of my videos I direct and edit myself, but the few that others have done, I've been really lucky to work with such talented people that I have just let them take the lead and known that they were gonna kill it. So
you mentioned in a previous interview that as you were on the Ali and AJ tour, the Stampede had come out, and it was really refreshing to see that the people who were at the show knew the words. They were singing along with it. But now you've been putting music out and you haven't had that live reaction to it. So, how is that going to be? And are you hopeful that they're connecting with the new material as you get out on the road?
Yeah, well, it's so funny you say that, because one thing I've been thinking recently is all of the shows on this upcoming tour, everybody's required to wear a mask. And so I'm like, that's going to be weird. Will I be able to tell if people are singing along? So that's one thing that I definitely have in my mind, is what's it going to be like to perform to a crowd of masks. But I'm very glad we have safety measures in place. It's great for everybody, for the performance, for the audience. But it's going to be, but outside of the mask thing, no, I'm really excited. I hope that, and I think from what I can tell on social media, it seems like people are connecting with the material, but it's going to be so nice to actually get these songs out and perform them for the first time, and hopefully see people reacting and singing along, just like on the Ali and AJ tour.
When people hear your music, I often, think about the idea of, you write a song, you put it out there, but then other people hear it and they kind of take it in, and relate to it in their own way. So have you had those moments where people listen to your music and then reach out to you afterwards saying, this meant so much to me because of this?
Yeah, I definitely have, in a lot of different cases. One, the most moving one being, there was a girl who, at the beginning of the pandemic, reached out to me. And I don't think this is about one song in particular, but I was actually doing live streams at the beginning of the pandemic. For a while, I was doing them every day because there's nothing else you could do. And she reached out at one point saying that she had been in a really, horribly depressed state, and that my live streams were the thing that got her, that kind of helped her survive the difficult time, as a sort of thing that she could look forward to every day. And that was, it brought me to tears to hear that, because just to know that even just I have that kind of impact on one person is just that's what I'm going for. I'm not just singing, I'm singing music because I love it, but so much is that I want it to help other people. And so, getting that kind of response is it really, really touches me.
Keeping as busy a schedule as you do, being as actively involved in your own career as you are, and, managing as much of it as there possibly is, do you fear the risk of burning out or just winding down a little bit?
No, honestly, I just love it so much that, I'm going to be tired. This tour is going to be very tiring, but no, I don't think so. It's so funny you asked that, because when I toured with Ali and AJ in Europe, my parents, I've performed my whole life, but that was the first time I did a legit actual tour. And my parents, it was so kind, they came with me, which was awesome. And after a couple of days, they were like, oh my God, this is exhausting. Audriix must hate this. She's going to want to never tour again. And I came up to them. I was like, this is so fun. This is the best time of my life. And so it was so funny because they were like, oh my God, we were so worried that you were going to, that this was so tiring that you were going to not want to do this. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's the most tired I've been in my entire life, but I love it so much. So no, I really don't. I don't think there's any risk of that. I just have such a passion for it, honestly.
You mentioned that you started writing music when you were 6 years old. Mm-hmm. What was the spark that began that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, the spark that really began my music love, and I talked about this in tons of interviews, but I'll say it again for here, is when I was 2 years old, I heard Vivaldi's The Four Seasons on violin and begged my mom to let me take violin lessons. My mom had played violin too, so I'm sure that there was some draw there, and she said no because I was only 2, and I badgered her when I turned 3. She said yes, and I got, started violin lessons like 2 times a week for 15 minutes. She'd drive me 30 minutes each way because that was my only attention span. And I mean, really, like, the truth is, like, Vivaldi's The Four Seasons was the spark that caused. And from there, it was, so it's violin. And then at my elementary school, my teacher would play the guitar and I would sing. And then I started piano when I was 5. And then when I was 6, I was in my first band. We were called the Backstreet Girls. It was just some other girls, first grade girls with me. And we I love the Backstreet Boys. Still do. They're amazing. And we would sing Backstreet Boys songs as well as write some of our own music. And so, yeah, I guess it was probably a mixture of being sparked by Vivaldi and being sparked by the Backstreet Boys. And one of the things that's so funny is one of the girls who was in the Backstreet Girls with me is actually also in the music industry as a singer today, which I think is really cool.
Nice. You talk a lot about, how much your parents are there for you, how much you have that family support.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother played violin. You learned to play violin. Mm-hmm. Your mother even played golf at Stanford. So did mm-hmm. you.
Yeah.
How important is it, was that to have a supportive family unit behind you, helping you along the way?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely huge. I mean, it would be a lot more difficult if it was just me on my own, obviously. Like it's, and just having my family like supports me. And, even though they're not in the music, I mean, my mom did play violin, but they're not in the music industry. I'm from Silicon Valley. They're all in tech. And so it's interesting because it definitely is a challenge. I think a lot of people, if you grew up in LA to a music industry family, you have those connections, which I didn't have any of that, but was lucky enough to have my parents support me. And even as a 3-year-old, for my mom to be willing to drive me 30 minutes each way twice a week for violin lessons. And then soon after that, also piano lessons. And then I also played viola and guitar and drums and singing, right? I mean, couldn't have done it without them. And even though I'm not, I'm a pop singer, I'm not not performing violin these days, the basis of my musical training starts when I was 3 years old. If I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. It's, years of developing those skills. Aside
from, all the music training you've done, and aside from your degrees at Stanford as well, there's also been a lot of, acting and improv. You spent some time with the Archibald Fellows. You've done a few short films. I stumbled across a music video, Love is an Open Door.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a Goals TV pilot recently. So when it comes to doing music videos and then all of the acting classes, how much do they support each other? And then how much would you maybe eventually one day like to transition into, say, musical theater?
Yeah. I grew up acting too. So acting is another giant passion of mine, as is musical theater. I'm very obsessed with musical theater. Though my focus these days obviously is more on the pop music. But okay, first of all, it all ties in. I mean, acting classes, even if I'm not doing an acting performance, all of that stage presence, acting stuff, it's all applied to your performance for singing as well. And in terms of musical theater, yeah, I would love to, my dream is to play Glinda on Broadway. Actually, fun fact as well, one of the things that was one of my favorite parts of COVID was I actually, with other Bay Area actors, we did a full Zoom performance of Mean Girls the musical. So full-length Broadway musical, all performed live on Zoom. I played Regina George, and that was one of the best things because it was actually, weird to be not in person in the cast, but still to be a part of a cast. And we had our rehearsals for months, and actually performed it live for people watching on Zoom. And that was something that was awesome to get to have a little break from the pop stuff and do the musical theater, and actually give me a really fun outlet and thing to work on and way to perform during the pandemic.
Now, for anyone who's listening to this podcast right now and they haven't had a chance to listen to your music, what are they going to expect when they tune in? Ooh,
upbeat, empowering pop music. Amazing. With sparkle, I like to say. Yeah.
And as far as the live show, with the Madison Beer Life Support Tour, is it solo performer with backing tracks? Do you have a band with you?
Yeah. It's just solo performer with a track. They preferred it that way, which was fine with me. Honestly, makes it easier to travel around. Ups the pressure on me because I got to give a stellar performance since it's just me on stage. But that's all good. So yeah, it'll be me with the tracks, with a lot of fun choreography, and hopefully get the energy up as the opener to get the crowd pumped for the rest of the evening.
With everything that you have a hand in as far as your career goes, directing music videos, writing music, the recording process, the editing for the videos, preparation for, and then performing live, what is it that you enjoy about the process the most?
Being on stage, the bigger the crowd, the better. That is my favorite. I love all of the pieces of it, but it's the live performance. There's just, there's something so different. It's great to write music. It's great to record, but to actually be in person with people, with a costume, with the microphone, with the lights and the loudspeakers, all of that that's what you want. That's the best part by far. I love it.
This is the Major Mixtape Podcast. Our guest today, pop singer-songwriter Audriix. We're going to step away for a few seconds, and when we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about her.
Hi, I'm Leah.
And I'm Beth Ann.
And we're She Will Rock You.
She Will Rock You is a bi-weekly podcast about rock history.
Each episode, we talk about an artist and their lives, but we do it a little differently.
You see, we noticed there was a lack of ladies hosting music podcasts,
so we wanted to fix it.
And here we are, two badass millennial ladies talking about rock music our parents wouldn't let us listen to.
As a bonus, you'll even get our beer recommendations at the end.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
And remember, don't do drugs!
All right, welcome back to the Major Mixtape Podcast. Our guest today, singer-songwriter Audriix. She's getting ready to hit the road. October 18th, she takes the stage at the Phoenix in Toronto for the start of the Madison Beer's Life Support Tour. Now, Audriix, we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that you played golf at Stanford. And when you consider, the amount of busy, loud work that you do, golf is probably the quietest sport you could possibly think of. So what was it that drove you to play golf at Stanford?
Oh, that's a great question. So fun fact. So my mom played on the Stanford golf team. My dad was manager of the men's team. And so parents were very encouraging of me and my brother to play golf growing up. And we had no interest. We were basketball players. And my dream for a long time was to play basketball at Stanford. And the high school I went to was actually a very small school, but they happened to win state championship in girls basketball every year. So I went to that school for basketball, but because it was such a small school, you could play a lot of sports. So I was like, okay, basketball season's done. I'll try golf. And I'd really played very little before this freshman year of high school. And so my mom said, maybe let's get you some lessons. I started going to swing coach, same one that she had gone to, and made the team, made it into the top 6 that compete, and just immediately loved golf. I just became obsessed with it. And with that summer after freshman year, I was actually on the boys team. There wasn't a girls team at my school. So this was spring of my freshman year. And then I just played for like 6 hours a day, every day that summer. And actually the first tournament I ever played in, I got a hole-in-one, which for anyone, getting a hole-in-one is kind of random, but I think it gave me confidence of, oh, maybe this isn't so hard. But honestly, I just worked really hard and loved golf and got good fast. I think honestly, having played so many sports my whole life actually helped me get good at golf, just because, hand-eye coordination and athleticism, and actually ended up having to quit basketball the following year to focus on golf because there was a real opportunity for me to play at Stanford, and then managed to get that opportunity, which was amazing. And I don't play competitively anymore. I just play for fun. But I love golf. And when you say it's the quietest thing I do, that's one of the things that's so nice is I just think going out, even just to the driving range, whether it's the range or playing on the course, it's really good for me mentally. You get outside and it's sort of like meditative. But in some ways for me, I think even better because your mind can't wander to your troubles or anything because it's quiet, the sun is shining, and you just focus on your shot. And so it's a really great thing to still be able to go to when I have the time to.
I find it fascinating that you say that, you took to it fairly easily. And of course, your mom having played, it's probably in the genetics as well. But the fact that you had been studying music for so long up to that point. And of course, the mechanics of a golf swing is very much trying to get into a rhythm. So looking back at it, do you think that some of that music training possibly helped in, achieving the level of golf play that you did?
Ooh, maybe. I think so too. And I think another element of music that maybe overlooked often, but music is very mathematical. I love math. And golf is as well. Golf is a very, very finesse, precise sport. And my golf teacher would always, we'd use the Socratic method. So it was a lot of thinking. So instead of just trying to do a quick fix, it would be like, okay, what are the two things that affect the direction of the ball, and makes you think about it, and precise things like, okay, with your 6 iron, you want to hit 6 degrees down. So kind of all the math, I think the math part of music, and rhythm as well, smoothness. But it really all ties in because I think golf, I approach in a very kind of like methodical, mathematical sort of way, because it is such a precise sport. If you're off by even a little bit, it can throw the whole swing off.
How much does that love of mathematics then play into the songwriting? When you're creating the beats, when you're creating the song, is it a lyric-driven songwriting process for you, or is it a build the beat and work around that process? Yeah,
no, I actually never start with lyrics first. It's very much I would say melody and vibe kind of thing drives it. So my process typically, I'll usually write with other people. I produce as well, but most of the time for my pop stuff, I will work with a producer because there are people that are a lot better than I am at producing. But usually it'll be like, okay, this is the thing that's going on in my life today. Here are some ideas for the kind of thing, the kind of topic I want to write about. What's a vibe of a track that fits with that? And then I'll sort of start by just singing some sort of like melodic gibberish, that then the lyrics will then be kind of fit into that. But because it's so much you're writing a song that has to be sung, not something that needs to be read. So for me, I think you could write the most beautiful words, but that doesn't mean they're going to sing well. So I like to start with a more of a melodic, and you might have instincts as you're singing the sort of like gibberish words that come out of your mouth. I often think like, you'll sing a line randomly that an idea that, and you'll end with like an E vowel. And often that's actually the instinct to end with the E vowel. That's like, you should put a word in there that has that E vowel, even though you haven't even thought of the words. Like often just the sort of like vowels that you instinctively want to put into the melody end up being the ones that you should go with, which I think is really interesting.
And then further to the love of math, when it comes to the choreography, whether it be for your videos or for the live show, how much are you counting out the steps, or how much are you just feeling the music when it comes to the choreography?
Oh, I'm not. I'm just feeling it. I mean, I have danced for so long, I think, as well, that, I mean, who knows? Maybe I had to count when I was first learning, but I think it's just in my body at this point.
You mentioned, of course, playing golf and of course playing basketball. Mm-hmm. So, if given an if or situation, play a pro-am tournament for the LPGA, mm-hmm. or play a celebrity game at a WNBA All-Star weekend, which would you choose?
Oh, golf. I don't play basketball. I actually still love basketball, but I'd pick the celeb pro-am. Yeah.
See, now I'm curious. If it's a pro-am and you got paired with someone, is there someone on the LPGA tour you would love to be paired with?
Ooh. I mean, I think Lorena Ochoa is amazing, but also I have a lot of friends on the LPGA, so for maybe one of them too.
Okay. So now there's also, when it comes to the quieter moments, especially on the golf course, mm-hmm. you're also into photography as well. And, mm-hmm. There is still your website out there where you were doing a lot of photography. So, mm-hmm. so how much of that, comes from just, being a child of the arts, and how much of that love of photography do you translate into being a director for your videos?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved photography. I took a lot of photography classes at Stanford as well. I've always said I actually one day would love to go back and get an MFA in photography as well. I think it actually plays in quite a bit, though. I mean, when I do photography, it's more of just because I love being outside and taking beautiful photos. But I absolutely, all of the photography training that I have is huge in music videos, whether it's me setting up the filming or not. Just having that eye is a big thing. And even most of the videos that I will direct myself, I work with Leo Omar, who's my amazing videographer. I worked with him on so many projects, and it's such a great pairing because he captures exactly the vision that I have in my head, and we just make a really great team where I'll have sort of like a vision, and he and I will brainstorm, and he'll contribute to that, and we're always just like totally in sync with what the vision is. And then he takes what I have and he makes it 10 times better. But it's also great because then I'm like, cool, I know that, and he'll give me the footage and I'll edit it, but I know I don't have to worry about, did we get the shot? Because I know that he's capturing exactly beyond what I could ever ask for.
Looking down the road and knowing as much as you do and being as talented in as much as you can do, is there a hope somewhere down the road of creating a production company and helping other singers, kind of launch their career and get that presence out there?
Haven't thought so much about launching a company specifically, but I absolutely would love to to mentor in whatever way it takes form, to mentor other young singers. Yeah, for sure. And I do some of that, in a smaller scale. Like I will, I've been a mentor for some local junior high girls on songwriting projects or things like that. So I try to mentor / help other young musicians when I can. But a cool idea, actually, to an actual company. I hadn't actually thought of it, but I like that. I like that idea.
Pulls out notepad, writes it down.
Yeah, exactly.
For the future. You mentioned acting as well, and when you're auditioning for roles, how much do you go into the character, and do you ever take a look at the description of who you're auditioning for? Wonder what music they would listen to and help you use music as a character study?
No, but another one I'll add to the notepad. I think that's a cool idea as well. But I do definitely try to get into the mindset of the character and think the character's thoughts. I've taken a lot of classes from Leslie Kahn, who's a great teacher in LA. And one of her big mantras is think the character's thoughts. Which I think is a really big help because it kind of instantly grounds you and helps you embody the character very well.
I think one of the more fascinating things as I was doing my research for this interview was just that seemingly love of learning. Mm-hmm. You seem to constantly be taking either courses or expanding your knowledge. So down the road, are there things you would still love to be able to study?
Yeah, as I said, the MFA in photography is on my list. I really would love to go back. It's interesting because I did my 3 Stanford degrees all in a row. which was great because I kind of got them over with. But now I'm like, oh, but sad I don't get to go back for an MBA now. Which I think was the right move because I'm so busy with the music. I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't have time to do that now anyways. But no, I mean, in some ways I do miss Stanford. I love it. I still go on campus, fairly often just because it's great. And I have friends who are at the law school and things there, but, I'll go back for something to learn some more one day.
I want to take a step all the way back to young Audrey. And you mentioned, listening to Vivaldi and, how that kind of sparked, the music writing. But there comes a moment, in everyone's young age when they take their own money, whether it's a Christmas gift money or birthday gift money or whatever, and they go to the record store for that first time and buy a record for themselves. Not, hey, you got the CD as a birthday gift. Mm-hmm. You actually bought it with your own money. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what CD that was?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember probably some of them. I remember I bought a lot of the Backstreet Boys, some of the Backstreet Boys, like Black and Blue and those. And I also did have this was a birthday present, but my friend gave me, it was a CD that was a Journey Through Venice, like story with Vivaldi's music in it. And I got that when I was very young as well. So those are the two that stick out to me is the bunch of the Backstreet Boys CDs and the Vivaldi. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a story through Venice to sets of Vivaldi's music.
Which of course brings us to the big question of the podcast. Mm-hmm. So if you, Audrey, had to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but instead of saying, hi, I'm Audrey, I do everything, you hand them a mixtape. And on that tape are songs that tell the story of you. What songs are on that tape and why are those songs there?
Yeah. So, I took a lot of thought in no particular order. So one would be Let It Go from Frozen. That's probably one of the biggest songs. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. Because I think so much is like going through life and having to let go of let go of the stresses of the past or the present and just like move forward. So I think that's something that's very much just a theme throughout my life. Then I would say this one's a bit of a joke, but Popular from Wicked, because my dream role is to play Glinda in Wicked. And it's just this happy song about, giving a makeover and stuff. And that's kind of the more fun side of me. Not to say I'm so popular or anything, but the just happy, like carefree, like silly song, like Popular, is very much captures my happy, fun personality. So that's a big one. Then I would say Titanium by Sia. It's a song about strength and, you shoot me down, but I won't fall. And as we kind of talked about earlier in this interview, so much of my music and just the way I live my life, it's all about, so much is about empowerment. And so I think that song captures the theme of, empowerment so well, as well as being a catchy song, but just being strong and resilient when life knocks you down. The next one I would say is two songs that are in the same thing, which is Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo and Get Out and Stay Out from 9 to 5, which are obviously those are songs about the end of a relationship. And I've talked a lot about this in my work and in other interviews, but my engagement ended earlier this year, I've gone through a lot of breakups, but this was, in terms of a mixtape that gives an overview of my life. Obviously that was one of the most defining moments of my life, was going through, and it was very traumatic. And both Good For You and Get Out and Stay Out are just a like Get Out, I'm taking back my life. And I will say, actually, Get Out and Stay Out, there's a line that says I'm taking back my life. And that is what sparked the idea for my song, Taking Back My Life, as well. Obviously, also any of my songs could fit on my mixtape too. Both of those songs are breakup songs, but in an empowering way. And I obviously am like devastated by what I've gone through too, but I try to like break through and still be strong. I guess I probably should have thought of, there's probably a sad song that should be included too, but I am someone that I guess doesn't like to deal with sadness. So I probably should have also, maybe off the top of my head, I'll think of one, but there's actually maybe we'll throw in Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo too, which is another sad, is a sad song. Cause it obviously was a traumatic and difficult experience that is still difficult and still I'm dealing with now. And then I would say, let's see, the one last song I'll put is Best Song Ever by One Direction, because One Direction is my favorite band of all time. And it's just, it's not even a song about like anything deep or anything, but it's we danced all night to the best song ever. It's just this fun, upbeat, one of my favorite songs. And I love music and dancing and all that stuff. So again, that's the sort of like happy side of me as well.
When you're going through something, as tough as you have gone through, which do you find, more helpful in kind of getting through those tough times? Leaning on music that kind of helps the healing process, or writing out those feelings and almost using that, that need to bring yourself up as motivation.
Yeah. I mean, the songwriting, I think for sure that's a big piece of me healing through whatever I'm going through, is writing it into music. And cause it helps me make sense of the feelings, and it helps at least create something positive out of something bad. Or something positive out of something positive if it's not a bad, not a sad song. But no, I definitely, it's very healing to put my stories into my music.
When you write songs based on personal hard times, do you find it hard sometimes to kind of go back to those and prepare them for playing live?
It depends. I will say, the thing that's interesting is not so much the hard times, because those are easier. Actually, the harder thing for me right now is going back to some of the happy songs that are no longer happy, so like songs that I wrote about a relationship when times were happy that is no longer. That's actually harder for me to go back to than this, the sadder or angry songs. And most of my songs, I wouldn't say they're more like strength coming out of difficult times than like sad. And so it's not so hard to go back to the strength ones, but actually going back to the happy ones is hard.
Well, I do hope that when you do get back out on the road for the tour and you get up on stage, and if those songs are in your set list, here's hoping that the crowd sings along, even if it's behind mass, and helps, lift those moments up. But before we end the interview, though, I want to give you another one of those and/or situations. Okay. Ideal, like this is the pinnacle.
Okay.
Wicked on Broadway or headliner arena tour?
No, headliner arena tour. That's so hard, but here's why. Because I believe if I headlined a giant arena tour, that would help propel me to be in Wicked on Broadway.
Unless, of course, you take Wicked off Broadway, put it in the arena, and then you're fine.
True, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I love both. I think I'm more drawn to the reason, what puts it over the edge, the headlining arena tour is getting to sing my own material. But you basically have described my two biggest dreams of my life. So
Audriix, thank you so much for this. Good luck on the tour. Where can people find you out there on social media? Where can they hear your music, and where can they see you on this tour?
Sure. So if you look up Audriix, and for people who are just listening, it's spelled Audriix. The X is silent. So look up Audriix spelled that way. That's my Instagram handle. That's, if you search Audriix on Spotify, or you can go to my website, audriix.com, and that has links to everything. But I don't think there's anybody else that spells their name the way I do. So I think it should be pretty easy to find. And then you can find me all across the US and Canada. So tour opening for Madison Beer. So if you want to come to one of the shows, either go to my website, audriix.com, in the tour section for tickets, or you can go to Madison Beer's site. It's, it's very easy to find tickets, but we start on October 18th, as you said, in Toronto, then Montreal, then we go down the East Coast, then across the Midwest, down the West Coast. So, and end in LA on November 28th. So there's a whole bunch of 27 different opportunities to see the show. So, yeah.
Audriix, have a blast on the tour. Hope the crowds are amazing for you, and hope this is the return to normal post-COVID. Thank you so much for hopping into the show, and thank you to our listeners for listening into this episode of Made You a Mixtape. Now, if you're listening to us on an audio streaming service, you can watch this entire interview over on YouTube. But if you are watching this interview over on YouTube, you can head over to any audio streaming service, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, Google, TuneIn, wherever. Download this, listen to it on the go, and hear Audriix's story before you go out to see her live. This has been the Made You a Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. We'll catch you next time. Take care.